Hey everybody, welcome to episode 33 of Power Bombshells. I'm Sam, that is Mel. We are just two broads talking about the wrestling that we watched. And I watched a lot of things that I wasn't planning to watch this week. So we have a lot to talk about.
Well, I didn't watch quite as much because I had an anniversary this week, and
That's important.
so I got some pretty
Congratulations.
sweet. Thank you. It was my 20th wedding
Woo!
anniversary, and we did some stuff during the week, and Bob got me the world's coolest presents.
It's very cool. I've seen
which
it.
Sam has seen, at least in pictures. She'll
I've seen
get
in
to
pictures, yes.
examine it up close, maybe with you guys, maybe in the future, maybe in something we might be doing coming soon.
So pay attention if you didn't get that. That was that was a little bit of a maybe not so subtle hint.
It's not subtle-ish.
Information is coming soon. We'll just put it that way.
I'm terrible at this. I need to learn James's. James from the Boom has the absolute best reads.
Yeah.
Out of just about everybody, and he just does them right off the cuff there. So I need to go to the natural. James McDaniel School of ad reads.
There we go.
and get better at my segues and
stuff.
But,
well, we're trying to be careful because we're trying not to announce it too early because we know, things happen and people forget and people may not remember. So we're trying to wait till closer. But something is coming. It's brewing. As it were.
Good. That was good. I like it.
Thank you.
So yeah, and so for those of you who have opted to listen instead of watch, it's at Powerbombshells on the Twitter and on the Instagram, and pretty much I think we've got it on. Got it on a lot of social media. We're not on the talk yet, but who knows? I have a friend who calls it the talk. I can't help it.
Great.
But, you'll have to hang out and stay tuned. And if you are someone who's listening, you can still help us out by popping over to our YouTube channel and giving the Fight Game Media channel a subscribe.
Yes.
Because we're super duper close to, getting to the 24, 25, 100, trying to push that out there. And that helps us. We're trying to get it so that we can keep our, you guys can listen and keep the feed up there for more than a couple of weeks at a time. I've had to take some episodes down. So,
well, yeah.
We're
just testing things out. But yeah, and help us out on
YouTube. That's a way to get it so that I can keep them up there longer and we can have a real feed and we can put it on more
Help us help you because then you'll have more content to listen to.
Exactly.
So
all right.
There you go.
So I'm done with that. I got it out of the way at the beginning.
You did. Yes. And we'll put up
we have a large amount of wrestling to talk about.
We do. Because some things happened this week. We're not talking about the drama this week because I'm tired of talking about it. I'm tired of reading about it.
I'm tired
of because we had
that doesn't need any more.
No, and I was gonna say we have enough wrestling things, actually wrestling related things to talk about this week. So we're so if you are interested in talking and hearing about that, I'm sure other Fight Game Media shows will be covering that, and they got you covered. And if you're sick of hearing about it, I'm sure they'll have other content for you because as I know, we've already plugged the YouTube channel. However, the Fight Game Media YouTube has a ton of different shows that cover a ton of different topics, different promotions, all kinds of things. So if you are looking specifically to hear about that, then you can go over there. So we are going to talk about wrestling things.
Yay!
Yeah. So this week, we had the return of Saraya to after what happened, not the return, but the return of after last week. Last week, if you listen to our episode, you know that we were not fans of the segment last week. It was very rough. They did do the thing where they put Saraya right back on TV. They did not put a microphone in her hands. Probably for the best, but she also She also, I guess, let it be known that that's how she let people know she was clear. She let her fists do the talking for her, which is probably in this after last week, that's probably the best way to handle that, because they had, especially because they opened before the women's match started, there was Britt Baker once again.
Britt Baker.
There was a pre-taped promo of her, and the promo was actually funny. I laughed at it the first time, but then I went back and listened to it because I was transcribing it for an article, and it made me laugh. I was like, oh, Britt. But yeah, so Britt was saying she was answering the question that everybody was asking, and it was if Saraya was cleared, and she was like, no, Saraya is not cleared. She was like, and so I guess this makes it my house after all. And so that did not. Oh, and she said she was the face of the AEW women's division. And so that did not go over well with Saraya. And she let her know with her fists. And they did just enough where they because everybody, obviously that's what we had been waiting for, was to see if Saraya was gonna get physical at all. So she got physical within 3 weeks of appearing on the show.
Yeah, that'll be week 3 for her. So,
yeah, and so she did. And then of course, there were other women in the ring, and so they kind of took the brunt of it. So they put her in a situation where she couldn't get, not that she couldn't get hurt, because obviously you can get hurt in any type of, but it was the least amount of contact. I think that it wasn't too much, and I think it was just enough. And then
slow start.
Yeah.
Ease you back
so
in.
and they're definitely they gave everybody a taste, as Daddy Magic would say. we got a taste. And then
that guy. Love that guy.
I love that guy. He's the greatest. I love him. He's so much fun.
It's pretty bad when the society that is supposed to appreciate you is actually cooler than you are.
Right. that is true.
Almost everyone around, the JAS, almost the entire thing is sort of
we appreciate everybody
better than the person. There's no slight against obviously Chris Jericho and his Chris Jericho-ness, but those guys.
Yeah, they're so funny. They're great.
Menard and Angelo Parker
they're so much fun. And Daddy Magic has been doing commentary on Dark and Elevation.
Oh God.
He's hilarious on there. And he's really great with Excalibur and with Taz, and sometimes they don't know how to react to him, which is even greater. But he's a lot of fun on there. I really enjoy him. He's great. So but yeah, so getting back on course.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
I'm always gonna veer the conversation. So she's the tangenter.
But yeah, so we did get a little bit of a taste. And so that was interesting to see. I mean, if she's cleared, because apparently Doc Samson has cleared her. I'm hoping he's not the only doctor who has cleared her. Not anything against Doc Samson, but I don't know how extensive he can be in the neurological and neck departments of things. So it's I don't know if maybe she had to get final clearance from him. And again, that's not to take anything away from Doc Samson, but it just seems like she was seeing a lot of specialists and who were telling her no. And so I don't know if she had specialists who were kind of giving her some parameters, and then Doc was like, all right, if you do these, these are our parameters that we can work with, and then I will clear you. So maybe, we don't know the details yet of that. So if that's the case, I'm wondering how soon how long her leash is, for one thing, because obviously they're going to have to ease her back into that. But it seems like on paper, Britt versus Saraya is the feud, because Britt is she's a huge fan favorite. So is Saraya. Saraya hasn't been in the ring in a very long time. This is, if you're looking at people in the company, then this is probably the match that you're looking for. And so we've got Full Gear coming up in a little over a month. So it seems like that's probably the direction they're heading. I don't know how long they'll get. I don't think it is gonna. You can't put a match like that on the buy-in. Like I know that I'm sorry. I think the buy-in now is going to be for Double or Nothing only. I think 0 hour.
0 hour.
0 hour. And that's not to slight 0 hour because I cannot stand when people make them seem like those matches are not important because they are. They sell your pay-per-view. I know that's a lot of WWE brain makes you think it's not important, but they are. But that is still a show that should be a main card match. It's Saraya's first match and so I don't know if they'll hold her, like if they'll build her up and give her, not necessarily putting her on darker elevation or anything like that, but if they'll give her like shorter matches on Dynamite or maybe even put her on Rampage and give her like a 5-minute match with somebody like, I don't know, like a Kylan King or something like that.
Someone that can make sure that she's not in too much.
Right. Exactly. I mean, maybe they even put her in against somebody like Madison Rayne, because Madison Rayne, she's a veteran. She's a veteran. She can protect her. She knows how to make sure that she's not going to injure her neck. Like she's going to be careful with her. So, I guess, so I don't know if they'll hold her off and make her very first match be at Full Gear or if they will maybe give her a few TV matches just to kind of ease her back in and then have the big match at Full Gear, or if they'll hold her out of the ring until Full Gear. So that'll be interesting to see how they can.
Yeah, I guess it depends on how they handle the angle because I feel like you almost need to get her you need some ring time. You need to warm up.
Right.
You need to feel the grass under your feet.
Right.
There's value in that. I mean, I would hate to have her come into like Full Gear cold on that big of a stage.
Right. Yeah, and so if they're going to use Rampage as, they're trying to rebuild it to what it was, before there were quite a few injuries, and that's what Tony kept saying on the media call was like, we're going to rebuild, we're going to make Rampage, I guess, important.
Make Rampage great again.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think, and I mean, maybe they could even have her wrestle Jamie because Jamie is obviously she's in Britt's group. Jamie is I think Jamie is somebody
she's super duper over right now, and everybody wants her to be in the picture.
Exactly. Wow, it's maybe like they should have put the interim women's title on her, like I said. But who said that? Wonder who that was. But yes, so maybe
emoji.
Yes, emoji. But yeah, so maybe somebody like Jamie, because Jamie is I don't know if you would necessarily call her a veteran, but she's been active for several years. And so she's somebody that I think would work well with her and would also be somebody who is safe and, somebody that you would put her in there. You're not going to put her in there with somebody like Anna Jay or, somebody like that. You would probably put her in there with somebody who's a bit stronger. And so you could do, if they wanted to keep the angle because of Britt. So if they wanted to have her, because Rebel doesn't wrestle really. So then Jamie and Rebel is not somebody I would put in the ring with Saraya. Even if she was, that's not somebody I'd put her in the ring with. So I think somebody like Madison, even somebody like Willow Nightingale, like that's somebody that you could put her in the ring with and they would take care of her and make sure that, she's getting the ring rust out. She's, they're protecting her neck and things like that and making her look good. Then I think those are the people that you can probably pick from to put her in the ring with. But I mean, like, we're just a few weeks away. Like, I think we're maybe 6 weeks away from that. So
yeah. November.
It's on my birthday. It's November 19th.
Right. That's right. I need to remember this. These are important things.
That's okay. But yeah, so
no, it's not okay until I remember it. Then it's okay.
It's okay. I'll keep reminding everybody. Full Gear is my birthday. That's how you'll remember.
No, that's good. Keep reminding.
But yeah. And while we're on the topic of the women really quick, I will make a note that yesterday is when Maria said that she would be done with Impact as far as because she was on a per appearance deal. And so yesterday was the 8th. And so it's interesting because Friday was Bound for Glory and Matt Taven and Mike Bennett, who are the tag team champions, defended their titles and they retained them. But they, along with Vincent, are also supposedly. I don't know if they were a paid for appearance deal as well. I know their deal, because in her interview with Grapsody, she referenced that some other people would be available as well. From what I understand, I had heard a while back, I believe PCO is actually signed with Impact. Like, I don't think he's on a per appearance deal. Like, I think he's actually with Impact. So it seems like he might be staying over there. But then I did see a report this morning that indicated that basically OGK, which is Vincent, Taven, and Bennett, along with Maria, were all done as of yesterday, but they did retain on Friday. So I'm assuming tapings must have happened yesterday. And because they filmed 4 weeks in advance, maybe there was a TV title drop. So hopefully Maria will be coming to AEW in a creative position.
Maria, hashtag all elite.
I better see a damn graphic.
I want the graphic.
Give me the damn graphic.
Give me now.
Give me the Twitter press release that says we've hired Maria Kanellis Bennett in the creative, a creative position for the AEW women's.
Sam can retweet her 28 articles that she's been
can plug all these episodes where we've talked about it.
28 reasons why.
It's really just
a timeline of why.
Here, top 10 reasons why AEW should hire Maria Kanellis.
And you'll never believe number 7.
It's great. So hopefully, trying not to get my hopes up, but hopefully, unless she decides to
get my hopes up. You know what? I'm allowed to get my hopes up. Okay. I'm not going to feel disappointment because it's wrestling, and
right.
You can't feel disappointment about wrestling because then you just wouldn't be able to enjoy it because there's lots. There's ups and downs. Wrestling ebbs and flows all at the same time.
Ebbs and flows
in every single direction.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm not to your point about Willow. Even Big Dave is starting to get over on Willow.
I
saw
that.
And
saw that.
If you can get I would just, if you can get your hot little hands on a copy of a Wrestling Observer newsletter by subscribing, doing it the legal way. The Antonio Inoki bio is, I'm sure a lot of people have mentioned this, and I know that they have on the ones that I've listened to, but the Antonio Inoki bio from this week that he put in the Observer, that opened the Observer, super awesome.
I've heard. I haven't heard
tons of great stuff in there.
Some great info. Yeah, that's really cool.
I'm sure you have a press access to it, and it's good. It's fun. There's a lot of I don't want to spoil too much, but dude had his own line of condoms.
What?
It's amazing. The guy.
Oh my god! This is brand new information for me. Oh my god!
I love it. He's great. What? Wow. I think
that might be right. Is that the clip we put on Twitter? It's Antonio Inoki had his whole line of condoms.
Oh, dude, the guy was amazing. He's like a national hero. He amazing.
Is. That's insane.
That's good stuff.
That's
good, clean, interesting stuff.
Yeah. Well, if that doesn't get you to fork over some money to hear, I don't know what will.
If you can't afford it and you can't get a hold of it, they do Black Friday stuff too. They usually give you a really cheap first month or a 0 first month and some cheaper month after. Holy cow. This is one of 2 excellent bios this year. The Vince McMahon bio, which was really good. And man, Antonio Inoki. Wow. You'll never stop discovering new things.
Apparently not.
I haven't listened to Fumi and Jim's Pacific Rim on him yet, but I expect that to be just as fun.
Yeah.
But yeah. So that was
Very
my little.
Cool.
Yeah. Had to get that in there because
I'm glad that you did because
I think that you would enjoy it. You would greatly enjoy the bio.
I did not know that was coming.
It's a nice sit down with your lunch and have a fun read and just be like, oh my God. But
yeah,
also,
that was,
of course he did, all at the same time. Just
yes.
like we've talked about.
Yes. All right. Well, I guess sticking with AEW things that have been happening. On Friday afternoon, there was a press release that was sent out via the Twitters, and then to the places like Fightful and things like that, that Jon Moxley is going to be around for a very long time. He not re-signed. He extended his contract. Well, I guess technically he re-signed because
I think it
came out. Yeah, it came out that he's been working with AEW without a contract since May. So all of these things, winning the titles and all this stuff, he was doing so without a contract. So he is locked up for 5 years, and he is, according to the way it is worded, he will be wrestling exclusively for AEW and its partners, meaning New Japan. So that seems that Mox is not going to be allowed to wrestle for GCW anymore, which was interesting because Tony couldn't wait 48 hours. He had to send it out the eve before Jon Moxley defended his GCW title against Nick Gage. This match was a year in the making, and Tony pretty much just spoiled it. And so somebody was telling me, and they're like, well, I get it because he's exclusive and he's their guy. And I was like, yeah, but it's a little disrespectful. Jon Moxley was their champion for a year. You just spoiled it on the eve of the match. Like, I think 99% of the people who were going to watch that match knew that Nick Gage was not going to, because it was a career versus title. We knew Nick Gage was probably not going to retire. Nick Gage has been having some health issues. He had an injury that he's been trying to overcome for a while. So there was the possibility that, yes, maybe he was done. But I think most of us assumed that Jon Moxley was going to drop the title, even before all the stuff with the AEW championship. Like, I think regardless, we just knew that, he's had it for a year, that, he did what he did with it. He elevated it and he took it to another level and he defended it against all kinds of people. So I think most of us knew, but it was still really disappointing too, because I was reading it out loud to my sister. And as soon as I got to that part, I was like, they just spoiled the match for tomorrow. And somebody else in the Slack that I saw it from, they said the exact same thing. They're like, I think they just spoiled tomorrow's match. And then I saw a lot of people on Twitter saying the same thing. And they're like, he couldn't have waited. And somebody was like, well, they needed really good news after this week. But that's not
that actually is exactly what I was thinking.
But I was like,
they must have done it to boost Rampage.
They did, but that's not Brett Lauderdale's problem. Like, you just spoiled his match on his big show that he's been promoting for a year. Or that they've not promoted for a year, but it's been in the works for a year. So I was a little annoyed. But then JD pointed out that GCW spoiled Mox's return after he left rehab because he wrestled GCW before AEW. So, which I get. So maybe it was a little bit of a...
That's a really interesting and good point.
So maybe it was a little bit of that, but I was still annoyed by it just because I was like, when you watch a match like that, even when you know most likely who's going to win, it's nice to kind of believe the near falls or believe the possibilities that so I was a little annoyed by that. But otherwise, my other concern was, when is Jon Moxley going to get to go on vacation? This man's
I guess in about 5 years.
I guess that's when he can go back to work for when he can go back and take GCW dates, I guess. However, there was some interesting things that happened. So if you have not watched Nick Gage versus Jon Moxley, you will want to mute this or come back in a few minutes.
Oh, wait, God's favorite graphic.
Yes. We haven't used it in a while. So spoiler alert
for GCW. Jon Moxley versus Nick Gage.
All right. Once this comes down, I'm going to tell. All right. That was,
you gotta
go. Okay. If you get spoiled, it's your fault now.
You were listening. You missed. And that's an epic graphic, okay?
It is an epic graphic, and we haven't
Yeah.
used it in a while, so I'm glad we're getting to use it.
You'll have to go look at the video for that little section while you
Yes.
subscribe.
There you go. There you go.
Oh
We're about
my.
24 minutes in, so go if you have to jump ahead to the spoiler alert graphic.
There you go. That's it.
But yeah, so this match was the main event. The show ended up being outdoors. I heard from a friend that apparently the venue got double booked.
Oh, lovely.
And so GCW had to have their show outside, and it looked like it was cold because it was
that's what they were talking. Okay, so here's me listening to Observer Lives out of context, not understanding what they're talking about. When they're talking about the fact that it's outside and it's in this, I'm like,
yeah, they're like wearing jackets and the crowd looks chilly.
Where was it?
Atlantic City.
Where was it?
Atlantic City.
Oh, geez. So it is gonna be folly. It's gonna be.
They were, depending on how close they were to the ocean, there might have been a nice little breeze.
Oh, that's on the ocean.
Yeah, it is. A nice little breeze, and yeah, because it was like on.
Probably, I bet you about the mid to upper 50s, if like it was.
Yeah, like
here.
MLJ was
that's
like
cold.
Yeah, MLJ was wearing a jacket while he was doing doing his ring announcing duties, and yeah, people were wearing jackets and things like that. So it looked like they were chilly. But so it's funny because Mox comes out first and was getting booed. Like just nobody. It was a very anti-Moxley crowd.
Wow.
Then Gage comes out. We get the Gage. If you've watched GCW, you've seen the Gage entrance. You've seen how the fans swarm him. They get all hype. He's hype, especially in this situation where his career is on the line. This could be his last GCW entrance ever. And so like some people unfurled, like it was cool before even Mox came out, you could see people in the front row unfurl this giant sign that says, "If Gage loses, we riot." And it was like this really big sign. It was really
GCW, so
yeah,
exactly. Have to take them a little seriously, and they're in Jersey, so
right. And and it was out for Mox to see when he came out, and Gage saw it. Gage went and stood in front of it, and so they get in the ring, and MLJ is announcing Mox, and a few CM Punk chants broke out.
That is the best.
It was, and he just ignored it. He didn't. I'm sure on the inside he was like, "You motherfuckers." But
on the inside he was like, "You motherfuckers," and then I love wrestling.
Right, pretty much. And then mostly just boos, mostly Nick. Then they went back into the Nick Gage chants, and there was a ton of Nick Gage chants pretty much the whole match. And so it was not, Mox started out, he had the upper hand for a while until Nick Gage got his hands on his trusty pizza cutter.
Oh yes,
and he
reading about that. I actually finally got I was like, Sam can explain it, because I saw that you were tweeting about it.
Yeah,
and you'd watched it, so I read about I read the update this morning, and I was like, Sam. Gotta get Sam to recap this.
I'll recap it for you. So yeah, and he went in with that pizza cutter, which I'm sure Mox would have it no other way. But yeah, it was much more than he did to Jericho at Fight for the Fallen. He was just getting in there, and like you could see John gritting his teeth. Like
they last time for a while.
Yeah, and then they moved him. Yeah, I thought about that too. I was like, man, because we've talked about it before, how there's AEW Mox. Then there's New Japan Mox, and then there's GCW Mox, and he goes like if you think he's like 8 or 9 in AEW, he's like 10 to 11 in New Japan, and then GCW he's like at a 25.
Yeah, he's somewhere else.
Yeah,
GCW is kind of a different level of
it is, and I think, and that's kind of like, and I think Mox needs that just because of the type of wrestler he is, and so I kind of hate it if he can't do that for 5 years. Like I kind of hate that for him, because I think he just kind of needs that, and so he knows that he can go, and like, well, even the match that he had with Tom Lawler at Defy, like that match was bloody. Both of them were covered in blood. The ring's covered in blood. Like there was a picture of Tom Lawler after the match, and like half of his face is covered in blood. His hair, he's got dry blood in his hair. Like, it was
Do you
extremely
see its match of the year award?
It was. Oh, it's on my match of the year contenders list that I have. That match was fantastic. So I do kind of, I was like, hopefully Mox, I was like, he might just have to get his fill at New Japan. Just get when he has that urge. So yeah, watching that last night, I was like, man, this might be his last time getting to do this for 5 years. And I was like,
he's gonna be like chopping and slapping harder than ever.
Right? Y'all better watch out if you're in the ring with Mox.
I can't wait for the first time that him and Suzuki just go after it, because he'll just be able to unleash. Suzuki just, I mean, he doesn't have, he only has that speed.
Yeah, so. That is true. But yeah, so they did it, and they got, he stayed with the pizza cutter a while. Like, he moved him to the next set of ropes to face a different side of the crowd, and got him again, and was just really just digging it into his head. And there was, of course, the light tubes. It was Gage had Mox had light tubes in the side of Gage's neck. It was a Jon Moxley match, but he bled last. Nick Gage, I was like, that's rare. It's usually Mox is usually bleeding within 3 minutes of the bell ringing.
The first bleeder.
Yeah, so they did that. So they were going back and forth, and it got pretty even for a while, because at first Mox just was like dominating Nick Gage, and Nick is obviously, he hasn't wrestled in a while because of his injury. They were talking about how he's been working out in the gym every day, and there was like I've seen videos here and there of him working out. He was down to, I heard that they said he lost, he was down to 228, I think. So I think they said he's lost 30 pounds. Nick Gage did. Yeah, which I'm sure, he looked great. It was really
good.
Cool.
That's good.
Yeah. He looked great. He looks like, I really enjoyed the match. So then they're going back and forth, and like Gage has Mox in the corner. He put a couple of light tubes on him, and then elbow dropped through the light tubes onto Mox. So Mox did the Danielson stomps, where he holds the arm and he like stomps, and he was like playing his homage to his Blackpool Combat Club buddy. And so Gage sits up and double flips him off and rolls out of the ring. So while he rolls out of the ring, Mox sets up a glass pane, and he's waiting for Gage to come in the ring, when somebody in a black hoodie appears, and they hit him with a big boot, which Mox had done to Gage. So they hit him with a big boot, pulls back the hoodie, and it's W. Morrissey. Oh. And Stoke pops up. Is Stokely Hathaway standing on the thing, and he looks at him and he points, and so Morrissey choke slams Moxley. And so then he points at him again, and he points to the glass pane. So Morrissey puts Mox through the glass pane, and then they leave. And so I don't know that Nick Gage knew that they were in the ring, and so that
shenanigans.
So that obviously sets Gage up for the win. So I guess that's how I guess they didn't.
That's Tony's concession.
Yeah, and so I guess so now it's interesting. So I don't know where that leaves the GCW relationship, because they came and kind of invaded, and they carried out an AEW angle in GCW, because the assumption obviously is that MJF sent them, because he has the chip. And also, because I thought about it originally, because on Wednesday on Dynamite, after MJF won his match, Lee Moriarty came out there and he started beating up Yuta, and MJF is like, stop, what are you doing? I didn't tell you to come out here. And then Stokely is out here, and he hands him the Dynamite Diamond ring and is like, hit him. And MJF is like kind of hesitant about it.
Yeah.
And so at first I was wondering, I was like, well, did they go rogue and just come attack on, just on MJF's behalf without MJF knowing, or did MJF send them? And then I was talking to some people about it, and even I was talking to Kevin Ely about it as well, and he was like, maybe that's kind of how he can play, like he can say, oh, I didn't send them there, because see, they keep doing the stuff without my permission, and they're doing these things on my behalf, and I'm not telling them to do that. And so so that was the other question, was like, would this be addressed on Dynamite? I assume that it will, and so maybe the relationship with GCW is not completely over. From what I have heard through the grapevine is that Tony did not want Mox wrestling for GCW anymore, and has been trying for months to get him to not do it. And even after the match was over, Nick Gage said, I think it was like he was shooting on AEW a little bit, but I think more or less he was kind of and I think what he was also doing was putting Mox over as well, because he said, the other company didn't want you wrestling here, and Mox said, I basically was like, I do what I want and I show up where I want, which is true. So he did, and he did it for a year. So I think that was a little bit of a jab at Tony. I don't know what their relationship is like, if they're gonna send other wrestlers there. So it was interesting because Joey Janela was in the ring when that happened as well. I mean, a lot of the GCW guys had come out to celebrate with Nick Gage, and so Joey was standing there, and obviously Joey used to be an AEW guy, and so it was kind of interesting that he was standing there listening to him say that. But yeah, so I don't know where this leaves things, and I hope they'll address it on TV because, as I was talking to Kevin this morning, I was like, MJF does everything with a purpose. He has a reason for everything, and so I'm leaning more to the fact that he's gonna pretend that he didn't know anything when he really orchestrated everything, including the stuff on Wednesday when it appeared that Lee Moriarty was acting on Stokes' behalf instead of MJF's behalf. And so it'll be interesting to see how this plays out over the next few weeks, especially if, because there is the assumption that MJF is going to cash in at Full Gear probably, right. And then maybe Moxley gets his 6 weeks off. Maybe maybe he loses at Full Gear and then he'll come back after Christmas. He'll come back in January. Somebody better come back with some snow, damn it. Actually, it needs to be MJF. That's all I was joking.
Maybe that'll be Moxley and Grace.
Yeah, I told my sister, I was like, MJF, I was like, and I keep saying I don't know if I'm going to be able to work it out to go to Full Gear for my birthday. I want to, but I was like, if MJF wins that title, you better have some damn snow, because I need the prophecy to be fulfilled. Damn it!
It'll be fulfilled. We'll see. It'll happen. It could happen. You know what you made me think of though is Nick Wayne.
Yeah,
that's. What is their relationship? He's fundamentally tied. I mean, he's fundamentally signed to AEW.
He's on but he has to, and the deal does not go. The deal does not go in effect until he turns 18, and he has to graduate high school. Those are Tony's conditions.
Yeah,
he's in his senior year now. I think I'm not sure if he's already. I don't think he's turned 18 yet. I can't
remember. I think he's like 17.
I think he just turned. Yeah, I was gonna say. I think he just turned 17.
Brian Alvarez had the exact numbers because Buddy Wayne was his coach. So,
gotcha. Yeah. So it's coming, but that's a very good point. I guess that once he's 18,
he's booked on the they're coming back to Detroit on a day that I can't go, which is, that's okay. I'd love to see a lot of the people because there's a bunch of people I really enjoy in there, but I've seen most of them. So I was like, okay, that's cool. And I might actually get to see some human friends in human form. Oh my gosh.
Wow. And exciting. I know you do.
Crazy. It's out of this. What?
Human interaction,
including one that wasn't born, and now he's gonna be 3. But no, but I saw his name on that list, and I was like, that's the only
and he wrestled.
Just had me thinking about.
Yeah, and that's true. I didn't even think about that because he wrestled. Like I said, I missed him at the show yesterday, but I'm pretty sure he was on yesterday's card. I know he's on today's card. He wrestled. They went to the UK. He wrestled in the UK. GCW just did 3 days in Japan. He was on those shows as well. Which I have heard that I haven't had a chance to watch them, but I heard the GCW Japan shows were really good, and I heard they were really insane. I've seen a couple of pictures of the matches that Effie had, because Effie had some some death matches, and I saw some of the aftermath, and I saw something that had to do with the final spot of one of the matches, and so and my friend, that ordered them, he was like, yeah, you need to, he's like, they're only like 2 hours. He's like, but so try to watch them if you can, because he's like, they had some crazy stuff. So it'll be interesting. I guess they'll just book Nick Gage Nick Wayne until
they can.
And until they can. And then, I don't know what kind of deal he'll be under. I assume that he won't be able to wrestle with them
he
anymore.
can't wrestle everywhere, in fairness, because of like actual regulations and so forth. But...
Right. So that'll be interesting to see how that works, and to see if he'll just be done. Which I joked last night, and apparently from what Brad told me on Twitter, I made him spit out his soda. Because when they were booing Mox, I said they're booing him like he's Blake Christian, because GCW when it got out that Blake had signed with AEW, the fans like turned on him and they booed him, and they chant at him and things like that. So I was like, and I agree with Brad. We in this house, we love Blake Christian and Jon Moxley as well.
It's all right. Some things can coexist. It's all right.
It can happen. But so it'll be interesting to see if there's any relationship with GCW after this, or if Tony just got his angle in, and and then that's it for at least 5 years, and then how this plays out with if Mox if AEW rather, if they acknowledge it on Wednesday, which I guess they will, because I mean that was a storyline. They
if they're gonna use it, so
so it'll be interesting.
Assume if they're gonna send some guys over there, that they're gonna use it for something.
So so that'll be interesting to see how that goes. I'm glad that Mox has got, that he's gonna be around till, I was like, he's gonna be there through year 8. I was like, that's insane to think about. And I was like, but that's the guy that you have stick around for 8 years, and especially after all he's done in the last few months. And so I just hope he gets to go on vacation soon.
So we're on October 9th, 8th?
The 9th.
Wrestler of the Year, Jon Moxley?
He's definitely made a case for that. I could see there
with all the shenanigans.
He's been through a lot, but I know that some people would. I think Speedball Bailey deserves to be in that conversation, because he has had he's worked everywhere. Like he's worked so many shows since he's been back in the US. I mean, he's killing it in Impact. I haven't seen it, but I heard his match with Kazarian at Bound for Glory was excellent.
Yeah, I heard it was great.
He's been having killer matches on the indies. He's been wrestling everywhere on the indies. We saw him a lot through Mania week when he was doing indie shows. He was doing a lot of stuff. So, I definitely think Speedball is in that category for sure. And there's probably some other, but Mox has a very strong case. And I think what makes Mox even stronger, not just the AEW stuff, is he was GCW champion for a year. He has wrestled in Defy. He has wrestled, he's been having these great matches outside of AEW, which I think only strengthens his case, which kind of is disappointing. Like, I understand AEW making him exclusive. Like, I get all of that. But then for those of us who are just fans of Mox in general and who watch him in other promotions, it's kind of disappointing, just because there's, again, Mox is a different level when he's on the indie scene. And so that kind of sucks, but we'll get to see him regardless. And so, I hope they rewarded him with a lot of money.
Yeah. I would imagine so, given
I hope I'm assuming they made it worth his while.
Since his daughter will be like 6 when he's done with it or something.
Right. That's insane. I mean, so yeah.
They better have.
And they've got him in this case where he, he's doing coaching as well, and he'll be mentoring and things like that, which is really cool to see. And definitely. And I think that, Mox brings something completely different to coaching. I mean, not just his style, but because he's, he was in the WWE system for a very long time. Before that, he was doing CZW. He's done New Japan. He's done
so much different
He's
stuff.
wrestled for and so he has so much experience in ways that other people don't. And so I think that's really important for wrestlers who are coming through after him. And, even because we've talked about like there's the 4 pillars and then they kind of have their next set of 4 pillars. So even the pillars that are coming through after them, to have somebody like Jon Moxley coaching and mentoring is huge. And so, and we've we've already seen that obviously with Wheeler Yuta. Obviously, even with MJF, like he's kind of doing that now. Shooter was done stuff. I mean, he's done a lot with that. So yeah, I think that it's a natural. It seems like it's almost a natural fit for him because he loves pro wrestling so much that he's like that he wants to show, and because he does so many styles and he's been in so many companies. Like I think that's great, and so I'm really happy for him. And Mox definitely deserves all good things. So I'm glad that they've got him for another
vacation someday.
Someday, hopefully not in 5 years, hopefully in a few weeks.
Elusive vacation.
Yes. So we've got a couple other things. I guess before we get to some of the more serious stuff, we'll just stick with the wrestling. So since that show ended early, I had Extreme Rules on. Well, I put it on. Mm-hmm. I had it on the laptop while I had GCW on, just because we knew that most likely Bray Wyatt. Well, I'll back that up. That the White Rabbit would be revealed yesterday, and so we were just trying to figure out where the reveal would happen. Would it happen in this person's match? So we weren't really sure where it was going to happen. So we figured it would most likely close the show, but then we didn't want to be like watching something else and then him come and like, because one of the other, like if he didn't come after the main event, then the other big thing was probably Finn Balor versus Edge, because he had kind of hinted, some of the hints for the White Rabbit had hinted at Balor, and he has a history with Finn. So this was, especially because that was an I Quit match, so there's a possibility that was there. So I had it on, and unfortunately, one of the matches that I cared about the most was Bayley versus Bianca, and it was a ladder match. And I saw a good chunk of it, but I was also writing about Jon Moxley and Nick Gage, so I couldn't. I was writing an article about that, so I didn't give it my full attention. But from what I saw of it, it was incredible. And Bianca, which I've talked about before, but Bianca's strength is unreal. Like, I mean, we saw it obviously when she lifted Otis up and carried him on her shoulders. Clearly, this woman is very strong.
Yeah, but she's an athlete.
Yeah, she had damage control up on her shoulders because they tried to interfere in the match. And then, the match was great. Bayley looked phenomenal. Bianca looked great. Bianca did a KOD on a ladder. And it was Bayley's mouth was, I don't know if Bayley ended up having something wrong with her, because I thought one time when they cut to her that her tooth looked like maybe it was loose or had moved or something, but they didn't hold the camera on her for a very long time, and I haven't heard anything else since then. But she looked like she hit her mouth on the ladder.
Yeah,
like it was vicious, but it looked cool. And she did the cool thing where Bianca hit the KOD and immediately ran up the ladder. She didn't. I was like, thank you. That is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to, like, that's how you win the match. So she went up the ladder, took the title down, and so she retained, which was nice to see. And so I don't think it hurts Bayley to lose to somebody like Bianca. And it was interesting. Yeah. People kind of lost it a little bit because Bianca, Michael Cole mentioned Sasha on commentary.
Oh, dear God, no.
He said, well, he did. I'm glad he did, because at the time, Michael Cole was the only announcer who would do it. So last night he was talking about Bianca and he's reading her accolades, and he said she is the first Black woman, along with Sasha Banks, to headline WrestleMania. Back when that happened, Michael Cole was the only person who would say it on TV. And so I was so glad that he brought that back up last night. But then, of course, people were like, oh my God, Michael Cole said Sasha Banks. And so, Twitter's going to Twitter.
Jeez, so reliably Twitter.
Yeah, so reliably Twitter. But yeah, so that was cool. The I Quit match, some people didn't like. I think some people thought it was too long. I can kind of see that, but it was enjoyable. They got they got Edge, which it was kind of obvious what they were going to do, because as soon as Beth Phoenix got involved, we were like, oh, we know what's going to happen. And that's exactly what happened. They Rhea set her up for a concerto, and they were going to make Edge watch. They had Dominic had one arm, Damian Priest had an arm, and Finn was like holding him up by the head. And so he was like, so she was getting ready to hit her with the chair, and he just said, I quit. And like not very loud, but loud enough that you could hear it. And Finn was like, say it again. And he said, I quit. And Rhea hit her anyway. And then they dropped him. And so that was, so it was a cool ending. It was predictable, but they executed it well.
Yeah.
I think we're probably going to get Beth versus Rhea down the line. That's a WrestleMania match. I think they can make that. I mean, if they sell, people were joking. They're like, she'll come back in a few months from her concerto. And they're like, you mean Monday?
Yeah, like, a few months.
Yeah, because Monday is apparently the season premiere of Raw.
Oh, right. Oh, that's right. I did.
So I could see. Yeah, so I think so. If they don't do Bayley versus
so her injuries reset. It's fine.
So if they don't do yeah, exactly. If they don't do Beth and Rhea at WrestleMania, I could also see them doing Beth and Edge versus Rhea and Finn Balor.
Interesting.
Yeah, I could see that happening. So that was interesting. I enjoyed the match. I can see why there was some complaints, especially because the ending was predictable, but it like I said, they executed it well.
But it's wrestling. Yeah. Endings are predictable in wrestling.
Yeah, a lot of the times they are.
Lot.
And especially in a concerto, it's an Edge match. A concerto is something that he has done for decades now. So it was, yeah, we knew where that was going. What else was on there? Was that the main event was Seth Rollins versus Matt Riddle in a fight pit, which was interesting. And they had Daniel Cormier was the referee for it. Yeah. So the ending was kind of lame. The way it ended, and people were like, this is why you don't have an MMA match in wrestling. So the ending was kind of lame.
Antonio Inoki.
Yes,
you can't do this.
Exactly. And who was
and since he's gone now,
there's nobody else like him. So
I mean,
there's that.
He's crazy enough he could come back for
that is true.
And they just be like, no, you can't do this.
Yeah. And then you know what? Last night he should have. But yeah, so everybody obviously is waiting. And so then the lights go out and Bray starts singing. You've got the whole world, and he's got the whole world in his hands, and they've got everybody's got their phones lit up. It looks like the fireflies. Like it was really cool. And then so they're flashing, like they turn on a light, and it's each character of the Firefly Funhouse, but as people. So it wasn't the puppets. Like they had the person who made the Fiend mask, made the masks, the human, like for people to wear. So like, and they were dressed.
It was Tom Savini, I think.
No, it was
director of horror, wasn't that?
No, it was.
Or was that a previous gimmick?
No, it's a different guy. I saw his Twitter, and yesterday apparently was his 40th birthday, and he was talking about how that was like the coolest way to celebrate.
That's great.
Yeah, and they looked really cool. They looked
right on.
Yeah, and so then they cut. Yeah, and so then they cut to the Firefly Funhouse set, and everything's covered in cobwebs, and it's dark, and you can tell it's been abandoned. And then they finally they cut, and there's this door, and it's illuminated by light, and like the door pops open, and the fans lost it. Like it was such a loud pop. Just wait, and then the door, there's smoke coming from the door and things like that, and then all of a sudden there's Bray. He has a mask on, and he's holding a lantern, and then he reveals his face, and he says, "I'm here," and he blows out the light, and the screen goes black, and I think it was an upside down moth symbol popped up, and then it went off air. It was just. They did
cool.
Yeah, they did a phenomenal job, because I don't watch WWE on a regular basis, and even so I've been following the White Rabbit stuff, either just because I was on Twitter or
you're supposed to.
Well, and I'm in 4 Slack groups. They're all wrestling related.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing because some of them are watching, and so I'm seeing like the theories of like who it could be. I mean, it was almost obvious from the beginning. Obviously, that was Bray. There was some ideas that maybe it was Karrion Kross because in Lucha Underground he was the White Rabbit, and he was like king of something or other. So there was then there was a reference a few weeks ago that it could be Joe Gacy. I hope he's not involved, but that's a story for another time. But so, it was, even with it being super obvious that it was Bray, it was still a lot of fun. And it was cool waiting for the reveal, and it kind of, the way they handled it, from what I understand, the people who are normally in the know were kind of kept in the dark, and only a few people were kind of in on it. And I think that added to it, like not having so many cooks in the kitchen with that, I think was really smart. But they executed it perfectly, because that story, and it grew on its own so quickly. Like, I think they had to deliver or it would have been a disaster. But the reveal was just, it was phenomenal, like the way they handled all of it. But I think the reveal of Bray himself was just, I thought they did a masterful job of it. Now the really important thing obviously is going to be the follow-up, because you can't have that and then do what they do with the Fiend. And so some people are hoping that means that they're going to kind of move away from the hokey stuff with him and just keep the mysterious character kind of like he was when he was the Bray Wyatt right before the Fiend, which is what I hope they do. But then I saw some people and they were like, give me all of it. Give me like all the, like the worst parts of the Fiend too. But I think I'm really, really hope that this works, just because Bray has been somebody I've been a fan of since he was Husky Harris. But they have always, always, always dropped the ball with him. Like, they give him, especially because he reminds me of Matt Hardy a lot in the way that he's so creative, like the way his mind works and the things that he wants to do, like character wise, especially with like the Broken Matt stuff that we saw, even Woken Matt, when they paired, Woken Matt with Bray. But it didn't work because Vince didn't get it and he didn't understand what they were doing. Shocking that he was out of touch and not getting it. But but yeah, so I really
impossible.
I hope that he has full creative control, because I think Bray knows what he's doing. I think he knows what the vision he wants to bring forward. And the booking is what messed up every single time that Bray has had momentum, even, as Husky Harris in the Wyatt family, like every single time the writing and the booking has screwed him over, and it's undone everything that he's did. So
he does the work and they screw him.
Yeah. And they don't understand his vision. I mean, clearly somebody like Vince is not going to understand a vision like that. So I'm hoping that Triple H, A, gets his vision, and B, even if he doesn't fully get it, that he trusts Bray enough to let him do it. Because I think if he has full control, then this can be what it was always supposed to have been. And I think that, especially if they bring him back after a year and a half, that he's probably worked on it and had all of these plans, and even probably plans from before that when he was the Fiend, So I'm hoping he can execute it now. And some people are thinking, because we have human forms of these characters now, some people are convinced that, I think it's and I may get these wrong, but they think Mercy the Buzzard is going to be Baron Corbin.
Okay.
The way they've been hinting at Alexa with some stuff, so I think they're going to let her, not as a different character, I think they're just going to bring her back with him. But after Liv Morgan lost her title to Ronda Rousey last night.
Right. Okay.
They couldn't find Liv, and then after the show, they finally found her, and she was in a dark corner and she was upset. And so they think, like, the way people think she's going to be Sister Abigail. And that's why she lost the title, and that's going to pull her. Losing her title has been the fans not believing in her, and that type of thing is going to pull her into the dark side, I guess, is how they would, kind of what it is. And so they think she's going to be in it. And then just before we started recording, I had read that Brian Alvarez says that Bo Dallas has re-signed with WWE. I don't know if they'll put him in this situation. They may do something completely different with him, but
let's hope they don't make him that bunny rabbit that got killed over and over.
No, they think the bunny rabbit, they think whose name did they I can't remember who they said
I feel
they
bad
thought
for that poor
was.
person.
But they're back. And so some people think that Joe Gacy, the reason Gacy's name was shown is because he will be one of the characters. But so it'll be really interesting to see. I'm interested to see what happens tomorrow night on Raw. I'm assuming they're gonna do something. I mean, you can't have Bray come back like that and then make people wait. Like he's gonna, and it's the season premiere of Raw. They are heavily hinting at apparently they're doing something for the 25th anniversary of DX as well, which will be interesting to see. So hopefully that doesn't overshadow whatever it is. I think Bray might overshadow that though, because I think people are so excited. Oh my gosh, there was a video of this girl on Twitter and she was in her little Fiend mask. She had like a little Fiend, like she had her little Bray like dolls, and she stayed up like, God, she had to be like maybe 6 years old. She stayed up to watch it, and her dad recorded her reaction. She's just jumping up and down.
Aww.
And Bray responded to her. He responded to the dad, and he said something like, "Thank you." He said, "I came back." He said, "I came back because I missed you." He said, "I miss all of you." And so that was his first. And I don't think he's tweeted since then. And so that was just really cool to see. And so I really hope that. And so things like that remind you, like, because I know how we obviously pick apart wrestling, and it should be, it should be critiqued and things like that. But sometimes, like, seeing stuff like that is really cool, and it just kind of reminds you, that wrestling is supposed to be fun. And so I'm really hoping that whatever they do with Bray, I hope they get the payoff, and I hope I don't hope they're not gonna send him to Saudi Arabia to wrestle Goldberg. Things like that. I hope we're gonna get
Saudi Arabia.
So I'm hoping, because they're already doing a match. I mean, I don't watch the Saudi shows, but the match that they've already got scheduled, like, I love Roman Reigns, but he's wrestling Logan Paul, and that's
not a wrestling match.
No, it's not. It's not. So
you're not even missing it. You're not watching it because it's gross, and it's not even like a total wrestling show. So it doesn't matter.
So I'm just hoping Bray doesn't nothing. I hope they book him better than that, and it'll be interesting to see, because I think I like how
person now. I mean,
and I think he's maybe a different iteration. Because I really like that he went back to the Wyatt family stuff, and he did and somebody tweeted it. It was a picture of the door and how it was lit up, and they had a picture of Mr. Brody Lee when he's standing in the hallway, and he was illuminated by light. And somebody was like, "You can tell me this is a reach all you want." They were like, "I think this might have been a tribute to Brody or Luke Harper," and they're like, "I really hope it was." And I think it probably was, and it looked really cool. And so it was kind of nice to have that recognition, because they were so close. And so and the Wyatt family Bray was my favorite, and so I'm hoping that he's gonna, but it seems like, so if the characters are coming to life, like, it seems like maybe the Firefly Funhouse is kind of being abandoned in a sense. And somebody else said they thought maybe each character, like Mercy the Buzzard and all that, they are different forms of Bray Wyatt we've seen, because they said that they think, like, one was supposed to be, Husky Harris is the pig, that's supposed to be Husky Harris. And then, like, they had Mercy the Buzzard wears the Hawaiian print shirt. And so, like, they were saying that each one kind of represented a phase of him that we've seen. And last night he had a new mask on. So this is the current version. So it seems like he's evolved, which is really cool to see. And so it'll be, because they did have somebody in a Fiend mask last night. And people cheered, because I think they thought that that was going to be Bray. And then they cut to the door, and then we realized, okay, that wasn't Bray. This is, and so it seems like he's kind of expanded. So I'm really excited to see, which is funny, because WWE has not done something. Because Nikki said that too. She was like, I can't remember the last time I've been this invested in anything WWE has done. And I said, Johnny Gargano's return. And she was like, I mean, I was excited about that. She was like, but not where I'm invested like this. And she's like,
well, they had a successful storyline that they paid off properly.
Yeah.
Which, I mean,
that hasn't happened in a while.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, and to the point where it was in, like, again, you don't watch it very much, but you started becoming invested in it from the outside.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's
and I've always been a fan of Bray. like I said, back in his days when they did the original NXT, when it was when it was like the competition where they were doing the different things every week. And so I was a fan of his then. And I've always hated how they've just dropped the ball with him. And hearing that pop for him just reiterated the fact that he should have never been fired in the first place. And like, they were like, he was one of their biggest merch sellers at the time that he was let go. And then he comes back a year and a half later and people are still super invested. And they're like, I have a friend, she doesn't keep up with WWE much anymore either. And she loves Bray. And so she would ask me, is he coming yet? Or actually it was, when is he signing with AEW? Has he signed with AEW?
I think a lot of people thought that was going to happen. I think that's a legitimate question.
And it seemed like maybe he was, but
he's out there.
Yeah, and I think, I'm sure I would have loved to if he came. I think with Bray, you have to kind of handle him a certain way. He can't just come out there and just be a guy. Like, you have to. And so if they were going to do it and do him have him in like the Broken Universe where like him and Matt Hardy could do like the stuff that they should have been doing in WWE, like that kind of stuff would have been really cool. But I think WWE is probably more of a fit for him if they're going to give him full control and let him do what he wants to do. And to be able to pick that up and bring if he's bringing Alexa with him, so that her story wasn't just a complete waste either, because it kind of seemed like they just when he got let go, she was just kind of there and just there. Yeah. And so it'll be nice to see her get some payoff from this character too. And now if they're bringing Liv Morgan in, like maybe get her, like I think for fans to see her in a different way. So it could be really interesting. And I am interested to see where it goes. Will this keep me watching every single week? I don't know. Well, I may just end up watching from afar. Again, like I'll definitely watch him tomorrow. I don't know if I'll watch the full show. I may just be like, at me when Bray is on. And then maybe I just go back to watching from Twitter and from clips and things like that. But I'm definitely invested in what they're going to do with him. And I hope that more than anything, I just hope they give him the payoff he deserves. Like, I hope they don't screw him over again, like to bring him back like this. I would hope that they had promised him like, hey, if you come back, you get full creative control. You can do whatever you want. We're going to do this. Like, I don't know, maybe he'll be a champion eventually. Like, I don't think he's going to be the one like to dethrone Roman Reigns or anything like that. But, I think that maybe they give him a little bit of, because of how he was treated, maybe they're like, let me kind of make amends and try to fix this some, and seems like Triple H has been kind of trying to do, is trying to make amends with some people, especially the people that were considered his guys or his people. He's tried to make amends, and so maybe he can follow through with that and let Bray, have what he should have had a year and a half ago.
Yeah,
that's what I hope.
Well, I mean, I'm glad that it was fun and a good payoff. Like, that's awesome.
It was. Yeah, I was really impressed with it. And I talked to some people.
Sounds like I should go check it out.
Yeah, I would definitely at least watch. I saw somebody did get the 2-minute clip. Because somebody had the clip and it was like the reveal of Bray himself. But then I saw something going around and it's like a 2-minute clip. So hopefully somebody has got the entire, like, from the moment the lights go out and you see the fireflies to the end, because it was just, the whole thing was really well done and it was really cool. And I think you have to, seeing the reveal of Bray's face obviously is very cool, and we'll probably get people just seeing that. I'm sure fans who don't really watch will probably at least go looking for what led up to that. But it was the whole process of just going through each member of the Funhouse was really cool too.
Right on.
Yes. So that was and then there we had a couple other things that I think we were going to talk about, like Tales from the Territory started this week.
Yep, I just wanted to mention this one because it did start, and this is from the people that did Dark Side of the Ring, and they are doing, it's basically a bunch of guys from each, like the guys from the territories are getting old.
Yeah.
And we're losing them, and they're, you know, I mean, people are passing away, and these stories are going to fade out, and it's kind of it's a really fascinating time in wrestling history, and I'm totally interested in it. And
it is,
after reading,
I thought about you when I was watching the episode, and I was like, they was like, hopefully they get to like the stuff that Mel's.
I hope they do
about.
Detroit. They're not doing it in this 8 seasons. I listened to Garrett and Dave did an interview with Evan, and
I listened to Evan and Jason on Renee's podcast.
Oh, even better
this week, and so it was really cool. I know they filmed. It's interesting because they've only filmed the first 3 episodes. It's a 10-season episode, so they will basically be delivering them as they're going to air. So that's crazy. Yeah. And they said, so I guess, you know, some people were wondering like why they went from Dark Side. So apparently because Vice was so into this, like they went right from Dark Side season 3 into filming Tales from the Territory. And so like he said that they've had like no break. They just went straight in, and he was like, and it's interesting like getting all these people, because he's like, you don't know, like, are they gonna get along?
Like, right? No, yeah, because they had legitimate beefs back in the day.
Exactly. And he was like, we filmed it in the morning so that there was not alcohol involved.
Yes.
Like, we don't want
smart.
It's like so that was I thought it was cool. And then they told the story, which you probably listened to as well. Like they told the story of like how they got involved with the Rock 7, because the $7 Productions is the one who's backing it, and it's, I think they are putting it like from, what is it, like from Dwayne Johnson and Danny Johnson's or Danny Garcia's $7 per, or like the way they word it.
Yeah, so like, I remember. I think that they got like EP credits on the end, and the $7 was in the beginning when the association was Vice. But I mean, it's clearly him on it.
Yeah,
they're gonna do one on Hawaii, which is actually awesome because there's not a lot out there about Hawaii.
There really isn't. So that's very cool.
But even everything that I've ever read where the person was involved, like the Sheik worked in Hawaii, he used to take his wife every year. They would do almost a tour, basically.
Right.
So that he could take her with him, and they could go actually like live in Hawaii for 3 months or something.
Yeah,
and do the whole thing.
Awesome.
And it just, I mean, those stories that you were able to come out of his family,
because and you see that
pale in comparison to, like, I mean, that's crazy. I mean, the Hawaii territory sounds just as crazy as any territory. Yeah, because if you've seen, like, I've been behind. So I watched the first season of Young Rock.
You get a little bit there of like the territory. Like, it's a little bit. So you see, it's so funny because obviously Hawaii is part of the United States, but they are so far from the mainland that you see, or the continental US, that you like. It's kind of funny how like the same shit that was happening and territories here, because as we talk about, carnies are gonna carny. And
man, and that was the era of the carny.
They will carny on a beautiful island as well. Like,
I'm so glad though that they've gotten to a point where they can sit down and talk about it.
And
be okay with each other.
And they can tell the stories. They tell that we were talking about it last night, and she's like, they're telling like the tame stories, because she's like, there's always like these wild stories from that territory, so they're telling stuff that they can like put on TV basically. And so, and it was funny because I think Evan was talking about how he was at the first Starcast, and he went to a bar, and Eric Bischoff was there, and there was a few other wrestlers. I should remember because I just listened to it and I wrote an article about it. But
which is why you don't remember.
Yeah, so there are different wrestlers, and they're sitting there and like they're just drinking beers, and one tells a story, which leads to another story, which leads to another. And he's like, and then there were like 20 stories like just that he heard that night, and he was just like, I can't believe it.
Why am I not filming
this? He said Eric Bischoff leaned over to him and was like, if this could be a show. And he was like, I was thinking the same thing. And it was interesting because like, so he and Jason were like really into territory stuff and stories. And so they had been kind of thinking about it. And then Chavo Guerrero Jr., who was on has been on Dark Side, and he's been doing stuff with Young Rock and things like that. He had been talking about doing a documentary on the territories. And so they were all kind of talking and just like, well, why don't we just come together and do this? And then they pitched it to $7 Productions, and because they had already had a talk, they had already been talking to The Rock, kind of pitching,
trying to get him to do something.
Yeah, because he apparently he, like, during the first show of Dark Side, tweeted them, and that's what started the relationship. Was the tweet, and they kind of, so he, after the end of the first season, they had meetings with Brian Garrett said, I don't think I'm pronouncing his last name right, but who was with Seven. He obviously was with a WWE writer for a very long time, but he's also involved in $7 as well. And so they were having meetings with him and like some other people. And then that was the one thing that like everybody was like, let's do this. And so Vice was like, we want in. So they're like, so they put Dark Side on hold. And so if you have not heard, Dark Side will be back. They are going to do a 4th season. They just had to do this first.
They were like, this is too good. We need to do this right now. And you know, I'm not going to lie. It is kind of fun. It's a nice break. I know that Dark Sides will always be, they do a really good job. They're fans. They try and be as respectful as they can.
Dark Side is extremely important. Especially from the information they're bringing forward. I mean, obviously we saw it with A Plane Ride from Hell. Like, that episode, even though it got them in a lot of hot water, especially with old school fans who don't want to think that these people could act that way, like, it's extremely important that these stories are being told, and that they got Heidi to tell her story on camera so that you can't ignore what happened to her. And so I was concerned at first when the rumors were going around that show got them into so much hot water that Vice canceled it. And so I was worried because nobody else was telling that kind of story. And so originally when we were hearing about Tales from the Territory, we were like, man, is this going to be like toned down and like,
does that mean that they're not doing any more Dark Side?
Right. And then, but they said that filming some of this stuff gave them ideas for Dark Side. He was like, because there is so much stuff that was happening then, like, we can still talk about it. And one of the things that Renee asked was, could you do, like, people want you to do things like on the current stuff, and he said it's hard because, like, he said Nick Gage is telling his story was the most current thing they've done, but he was like, it's interesting because Nick Gage's story is not over yet. Like, he's still wrestling, he's still doing these things, so it feels weird telling a story that's not complete. And he was like, so it's hard. Like, he was like, there is so much wild things happening in wrestling right now, but we don't know that we can necessarily tell those stories because they're still ongoing and they're still happening. And he was like, and so it's easier for them to focus on some of the older stuff because, you know, a lot of those stories have their completion. But then he was like, they were saying that makes it hard with territories is some of these stories are great, but the people aren't here anymore. Like, you know, he was like, I would have loved to have Roddy Piper, you know, be on and hear him tell the stories, or there's stories about him and have him kind of corroborate it or tell it from his point of view. And he was like, so that's the harder part, and is trying to tell these older stories with the people, like you said, this generation, you know, these wrestling, and we're losing them. And so we have to get them basically on camera now while we still can. And he was like, so I think, yeah, I agree. Tales from Territories, I think, is going to be fun. I enjoyed the first episode, and I think is next week's episode, that's the one that's all Lawler and Kaufman, right? I believe.
I think that's right. Yeah.
If it's not the second episode, it will be the third one.
Episode. Yeah. I know that there is a full episode about Lawler and Kaufman, and I'm excited to that's interesting. That's interesting on a weird level. Bob put on the Jim Carrey documentary about Man in the Moon and being Andy Kaufman and all that stuff. And I'm just like, this is kind of perfect timing for what's coming up.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see
the guy, like the ultimate kayfabe master.
Yeah, and he was
coffin.
yeah, right. Yeah, and that's what he was talking about. Like that was a kind of a hard thing to get with the territory stuff is because so many people were in that time. They were so like kayfabe was so
Yep.
protected, and like you couldn't be seen riding with this person, and like it'll mess
Mm-hmm.
up your story. And so now he was like, it was kind of it's been in the past. It's been hard to get these people to break that to
Yep.
tell these stories, and he's like, so now we've gotten to a point where they can get most of the they can get people to talk about what was happening then. And
I think even they know they're old now. I think
yeah,
it's finally settling in. I think at some
right.
point in our human existence, if we make it to that point, we start to go, crap, I need to tell someone about this stuff.
Right. And then and you've got Jason and Evan who are clearly wrestling fans. They are going to do the stories justice. And he was like, I think they were saying that was kind of the hard part with even with Tales from the Territory was like because they were not interviewing them in their homes, in the comfort of their homes. They're taking them out of that environment and putting them. There's a camera in their face. There's these hot lights, and they're sitting with people that they may not have necessarily gotten along with, and things like that. And he was like, so it's a little bit harder, in the beginning to kind of pull stories out, but then like once they get going, then they feel more comfortable, and the other wrestlers will kind of pop in and like because there was somebody I can't remember which story, and they were like, no, this is you got to tell the whole story.
Yeah.
you gotta be like, no, let me set this. Oh, because it was the story about the Tiger Bomb, I think is what it was.
Yeah.
And they were like, no, this is what they're like, back up, hold on. I was there. I was there too. Let me back it up and tell you. So I thought that was cool. And so, yeah, and they're just like, when it was cool because they said, like, Evan made the point that it's kind of like a Tales from the Crypt format.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, where it's 5 or 6 minutes. They're like 5 or 6 minute stories. Like they're not spending like because they're just trying to get so many stories from that territory in that they've only got a few minutes. And so he was like, they're kind of just like their own little stories about the same place. And I think like putting it that way was really cool. So like going into it, like I listened to it the day that the show aired. And so that was really cool. And it's fun. Like you said, it's different from the heaviness from Dark-Sided, but the storytelling is still there. Because I think part of it's because Evan and Jason love wrestling so much that they are really good about presenting it. And probably it gives them a break from telling such heavy stories that they can tell some of the
if you're gonna work straight through, at least this one's a little more fun. It's more personable. I think that as maybe some of the other wrestlers watch, maybe we'll get some of the other old timers watching this going, okay, maybe I can sit in a room with that guy.
Like, oh well, I've got a story to tell about it, or I was there and
not bad.
So yeah, that is really cool. And it's interesting because they haven't said really what they're going to be focusing on. They did confirm in Renee's podcast that they are telling the story of, I think it was Mr. Saito and Ken, just blanked on Ken's last name. It was an infamous story that involved a McDonald's. And I had to go look it up because I had not heard this story. And I went to look at I kind of scanned it because I was like, I kind of want to just hear it for the first time.
I like going in cold
so
on I don't know.
Yeah, I was linking it to the article. And so that's why I at least went and found something about it. And it was, I only know the basics. And like I said, I was trying not to read it because I want to hear their version of what happened. And so I know, and they were like, yes, we will confirm. People have been asking, will this story be included? And he was like, yes, it will be on a future episode. So it'll be interesting to see. And of course, they're not going to get to everything in 10 episodes. So I think they have a lot of material to work with. Like, as long as these people are still here, they've got like, it'll be great to see them get to other territories. Of course, I'm interested in the Charlotte stuff because because I live here, and there's so much.
Had a good, like, your territory was a big deal, so there's a lot of fun, like, interesting stuff to come from your territory. My territory was a big deal, but it was a big deal for a specific time, and it makes it's very tricky. And unfortunately, like, the Sheik isn't around anymore. You might be able to get his son or a couple people that helped out. But I mean, Brian Solomon would be able to. I feel like someone said that he may even be consulting on these things.
That would be
he's
great.
Such
Yeah,
a historian about it.
That's
and I know
cool.
that the Vince McMahon documentary that's coming out also, I think Brian Solomon did contribute to it.
Brian and
the Vice documentary.
Yeah,
not
and apparently Brandon Thurston contributed to the Vice documentary, which I will say is interesting. I mean, obviously it's not their control or anything because sorry, I don't know what my microphone.
It's your mic.
It's my mic. It's being noisy, but it's interesting. And I don't think this was on purpose. It's not a WWE thing, but it is bold of them. It's October the 18th, which is the night that Dynamite, they're running on a Tuesday. That is Mox versus Hangman in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
going up
There's
against
so much going on
that Vince doc. And I was
NXT.
like, well, that's bold. But it leads into, because it's from 8 to 10. So it just leads into Tales from the Territory, I think. And they are doing, Vice is doing a Slamtober, I think is what they're calling this month. And so it's like a wrestling theme. So that's also why they're doing it.
Awesome.
But I was like, yeah, I'm not going to be watching that live. I've got to watch Mox versus Hangman live.
Yeah, of course. Like, come on.
I was like, sorry. As much as I want to see this documentary, especially because Vice usually does a really good job with stuff, I was like, I will definitely have it on my list of things to watch. And I was like, and I'm sure people are going to be live tweeting it. And so it'll be interesting to see. And yeah, especially since they've got, somebody like Brian Solomon involved in it. That's really cool. And like Brandon Thurston is involved, which is interesting. So I definitely do want to see it, just not more than I want to see Mox versus Hangman.
No, that's definitely my priority that night.
So we'll probably be talking some more about Tales from the Territory because I really enjoyed it. I thought it was cool, a cool thing to see and to get these quick little stories, and they're funny. They're entertaining stories too, which is really great. And so just hearing, I'm really excited to see what the other episodes are going to be like, especially since we don't know what they're doing past those three.
Yeah.
Like, we don't know. It's kind of a mystery. And so we'll just be, I guess, finding out when they show the previews for the next week. That's how we'll find out what's coming. So yeah. And then, I don't know how quickly they'll get to see. Hopefully these guys get a little, like Jon Moxley, get a little bit of a break before they have to go into season 4 of Dark Side or season 2 of Tales from the Territory.
Hashtag give Mox a vacation.
Yeah, right?
Oh.
Excuse me, sorry. So
no, yeah.
Get into So this last topic I want to get into a little bit of heavier. So we moved it to the end once we had some other things to talk about. So this week, I've been meaning to get into the Matt Hardy podcast way before now, but even though I'm on a podcast, I'm terrible at listening to them. I always have been. So for SE Scoops, I got to choose a couple of podcasts to kind of keep up with and transcribe some quotes if there's interesting things. So I was like, I saw Matt Hardy and I was like, let me get on that because it'll make last week they had a cool episode. Sorry, my microphone's being a jerk. Sorry that's crackling in your ears.
Sorry, everyone. The microphone is apparently deciding our timing today.
Listen, I have something important and serious to talk about, so don't start your shit with me right now. But yeah, so last week they did a cool episode and it was dedicated to Cameron Grimes, who was Trevor Lee back in the day, and Trevor Lee, his dad Tracy was a really good friend of Matt Hardy's and Jeff Hardy's and Shannon Moore. And so he kind of told the story of that, which was cool because I got to see when Cameron was still Trevor Lee, he wrestled for PWX like when I first started, like early into when I started going. So it was also early in Trevor's career, which was really cool to see. And so it's cool to like see how far he's come. Since I used to see him, all the time, like on the indies. And so they talked about his indie stuff. They actually mentioned PWX, which was cool. And they were talking about some of the matches he had. And they mentioned like Caleb Conley, who is somebody I've known for like 11 years. And they mentioned Cedric Alexander, and they were just a couple of other people that were trained by George South. So that was cool. So this week's episode was a little bit heavier. Matt talked about his addiction. and how he has fought through that, and how he, like, it was interesting how the whole thing even started with him getting addicted to pills in 2010. So he talked about how, like, in late 2009, Jeff was getting ready to leave because he was pursuing some other opportunities, and so Matt had turned on Jeff, and that was like their story. And then Jeff left. So it was just Matt. And so Matt was in a pretty decent position because, Matt's been around for a really long time. I mean, he's been around for like 10 years at this point. He's been doing, he's obviously well known as a tag team wrestler, but now he's doing the singles thing. And so, like, he said he was doing house shows where he was teaming with Undertaker and Batista against CM Punk and Chris Jericho. Like, so he was doing, like, he's working with these really big names. And then, so then he gets on TV and he seems to be getting a push. And so he was talking about how, like, he was working around injuries. He worked around a broken arm. Then and I remember this when he had his intestines pushed through his abdominal wall. And he had to, I remember. Yeah, I remembered when that happened, and he had to have, he had to have like I think they did like minor surgery. So he's talking about, so he had those things that he was dealing with, and then he was in the Intercontinental Championship picture, I think he said. And so he was just kind of working through stuff. And then by that point, Jeff was in TNA. They're pushing Jeff as this big star, and they're not pushing Matt. Like, they're basically using Matt to help other wrestlers get over. And so he said that I think he had gotten his US championship, and then he was having some back and hip problems. And he told John Laurinaitis, he's like, I need to take time off. And John Laurinaitis told him no. That he said, you're in too good of a spot. And you can't. He's like, go to the doctor and see what they can do for you. That's not surgery.
Awesome.
Yep. And he was like, you have to understand, back in this time frame, if you took time off, you lost your spot. He was like, which is why I was working through, I was working around a broken arm and things like this, because I didn't want to lose my spot. And he was like, but then then I finally got to the point where I was like, he said, he was like having basically to crawl from his hotel bed to the shower to take a bath to, like, and he said, so that's why, so he was in a lot of pain. And so, and Johnny Ace is telling him, you can't have surgery. You're going to lose your spot. So he went to the doctor, and he's like, all right, this is what's happening. And so they gave him Vicodin, and they gave him somas. And he said that at the height of his addiction, he was taking 5 Vicodin a day and 10 somas a day. And he said, so he would take a couple in the morning to, like, get him going. Then he'd take some in the afternoon to help him keep going. Then he'd take some at night so that he could sleep. And I want to say, so the article that I wrote focus on that part. It focused on, so it was leading up to why he was taking these drugs. And a couple people quote tweeted the article. I'm not surprised. And somebody was like, 5 Vicodin a day, that's it. And somebody was like, I know somebody who takes 5 Vicodin at once. I'm like, your friend is an addict.
Has a problem.
That is not something you should be laughing about.
That's not something
5 Vicodin a day, not even the soma part. 5 Vicodin a day is a problem. That's
too much.
You need to talk to your friend. Your friend is struggling, and you need to get your friend some help. Yeah. So that just really irritated me. I was like, that's how these addictions to opiates start. And then having comments like that is how opiates keep going. That's how it keeps going. And so, and it was interesting because Matt said that he didn't even drink his first beer until he was 25 years old. He said that he had surgery before and was given Valium, or he was given pain medication, and he said, I threw them away because he's like, I know they can be addicting, and so I didn't want them. He was like, but then that time of my life, he was like, I was frustrated. He was like, my brother is in a different place. He's getting pushed. I'm here. I'm not being used to the potential that I have. And he was like, I think that he's like, the front office, he's like, they're telling me, like, we trust you. They're putting him in matches because they know that he's a safe worker. He'll basically do what they tell him to do. So they're using him in that sense where he, instead of like, they kind of faltered on his singles push. And so he said, so mentally he was not in the greatest state. And then he said, and then he was talking about how he's like, you know, you take these painkillers and you're like, well, it helps with the pain. Maybe it's going to help me emotionally. And so he's like, you're justifying like why while you're taking these pills, because he was like, I had so much going on. And he said, I think he had like 18 months left in his contract at that point. And so then he had talked about like how when he finally got released, like he made the comment he felt like the office was punishing him because they couldn't punish Jeff, which given what was happening in that time frame, I believe it.
That isn't even that far-fetched at this point.
I mean, exactly. And I thought
the idea of sending somebody like go to a doctor and figure out what here's a double speak way of saying go get some pills and shut up.
Right, exactly.
And then some dirt on it, which is
so
exactly
it was
what leads to people's addictions. So.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so he was saying like he felt nobody in the office actually cared about him because they weren't doing what was best for him as a performer. Jeff is getting pushed, and so because they know Jeff is not coming back, they're taking it out on Matt with the way they're booking him. They're not. And so he was like, it was just everything. He was like, it was emotionally, it was mentally, it was physically. And he was like, you know, I'm not dodging accountability and responsibility for my end, because he was like, I ultimately was making some of these decisions. He was like, but this was kind of the environment that was pushing me to make these choices. Yeah. And he was like, and John Alba asked him, he was like, do you think if somebody in the office had like pulled you aside and been like, you know, this is not the way to be doing things, like this is like, are you okay? Like, and he said,
right.
He was like, I think if it had been a genuine concern, then it would have made a difference. But he was like, I was also kind of in that mindset where like, I was just out of there. Like as soon as I could get out, I was gone. And so he talks about how he went to TNA and he said he went too soon. He should have taken time off. And he said he didn't. And then he said, and then like one of the things he talked about is how he was at the infamous show with Jeff, where Jeff showed up and he had taken too much of something or whatever, and for whatever reason he was not in the condition he should have been in. And Matt had said like, he's like, I had just had a really great match, and he was like, I was really happy about it. And he was like, and I think he was saying though that he was on his way to the ring and somebody was like, have you seen Jeff? He's in bad shape. And Matt was like, he was like, oh my God, what has he done? And then that was the whole thing where Jeff unfortunately tried to wrestle Sting. They called an audible. Sting beat him in like a minute. And that was obviously when Jeff was in a really bad place as well. And he said, you know, we both were in bad places. We knew we were in bad places, but it was just getting to the point where we were past all of that. And he was just talking about how, so he apparently he didn't go into detail, but he was having some legal issues. And I guess part of the way to deal with the legal issues was for him to go to rehab. And so he contacted WWE and was like, can you help me? Because, you know, they have that program where they'll help people with rehab and stuff like that. And he said that his lawyer he thinks his lawyer picked one because it was the more expensive one, and didn't really realize what they were putting him into. And the fact where he was like, I've never been to rehab before. This rehab was for people who've been like 8 or 9 times. And like, they're a little bit, and he was like, and it was a little like, he's like, at that time I needed somebody on my ass constantly, like making sure I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, he's like, I need them coming to my room and checking on me every 20 minutes. And he was like, this place was a little more laid back. They're basically like, if you don't clean up, you're going to die, like that type of stuff. And so he wasn't getting the proper help that he needed. And then he said that he was talking, and apparently the story he had never shared before, but he was saying that there was a guy who he would keep many bottles of Jack in the tile of his ceiling. And he's like, I didn't think rehab was supposed to be like this. So him and that guy and like 2 other guys were drinking on Tuesdays. They'd go in there and drink a couple sips, and they got busted. And so they all kicked out of rehab. And he said at that point he had done 60 days. And he was on an airplane and they were landing in Raleigh, and they said, we're landing, but you can't get off yet because the authorities are here to arrest somebody. And Matt said he knew immediately it was him because it was the legal issues, like, because he didn't complete his 90 days. And so he said, he told the people, he's like, I'm sorry, it's me. I know it is. And he said he got off the plane and he went to the cops and he said, I'm who you're looking for. And they arrested him. And he was in jail for a week with $1 million bail.
What?
Yeah. He was like $1 million. And he said, unfortunately, so he got put into the correct rehab program where they were checking on him every 20 minutes. He was, at this point, he was with Rebby. She was on his ass to get clean, basically, too. And so he said that's what he needed. And he said after spending a week in jail and all that, he was like, I'm never doing this again. He was like, that just got him like on the right path. And he said, even with Jeff, he said when the whole stuff with Sting happened, Jeff was like, I'm never taking another pill again. And he hasn't. He was like, but now it's alcohol. And he's like, that's a whole other issue, that we'll talk about later. But he was like, it's, these were the reasons of like how he got set on that path. He was like, I was never somebody who was into that sort of stuff, but it just all of these. And that's how it happens in a lot of cases. Like nobody intends to take pills to get hooked on them. And so, and he's just showing like, and then he was talking about how he was like, you see a lot of the wrestlers from that time, like a lot of them, how they, they were addicted and they were overdosing and dying young. And and John Alba even brought up a story about how Matt Morgan is really trying to help with like opiates and things like that because he was apparently taking pain medication and he was I don't know if he was addicted to pain pills, but I know he was taking them. And they said he was on tour in Italy and was vomiting up blood.
Yeah, it's no good for you.
And so he was just, so they were talking about like, and so Matt was like, I was doing a lot of things that I was not accountable for. And he's like, and that's why I'm talking about this, because he's like, you have to be accountable for the things that you're doing and the things that you've done. And he was like, John was like, will you tell your kids about what happened? And he was like, yeah, he was like, they need to understand like how these things happen and, how addiction, how it can happen and
runs in the family.
Yeah, runs, exactly.
And it's something that our family will struggle with forever.
Right.
And just all I can do is offer you my I have a family member who has been sober for 5 years. And one of the things that they've told me is that you don't give advice, you share experience. And I think that is such a, like, that's one of the things that they teach you is that, when the new people show up and you're there and, and all these things, but also is that a lot of times people want to tell you what to do and you should just quit that thing.
Right.
And without sort of a knowledge or understanding, whereas in the programs and so forth, it's about sharing experience.
Right. Exactly.
So that somebody, and if you're a parent, you definitely want to share that experience and say, sweetie, daddy went through a lot of these things and here's how we can make it so you don't have to go through that.
Well, and then especially in that situation where it's not even just, obviously it's him, but then they have another family member who has struggled with various forms of addiction. And just because you get one form of addiction under control doesn't mean that you're not going to find addictions to other things. And, so I was glad that he shared that and was so candid about it. And he talked about too, about how, because John Alba brought up the stuff about how he made the video where he basically said Matt Hardy, it came off like he was going to take his own life. And I remember when John was talking about it, I remember that video and I remember being very concerned about him. And John Alba was like, I didn't know you at the time. I was just a fan. And he was like, and I cared about you. And he was like, and it hurt to watch that. And Matt was saying that 30 people called the local police station because they saw it. And he said the police came to his house and he was like, okay, but he was saying he was in a very sad place in his life. And he was like, he said suicide had never crossed my mind. What he was trying to say was like the old Matt Hardy, like the Matt Hardy he had been, who was addicted to pills, was dead. But he was like, I can see how that came off as I was going to take my own life. And he apologized to John. He was like, I'm sorry that I hurt you and made you think that I was going to do something. And he's like, and I apologize to my fans who saw that video and were upset and concerned and thought I was going to take my life. He's like, that was not my intent. And he was like, and I was in a very bad headspace. It was a very sad time in my life. And he was like, and I regret that. He was like, but he said, I regretted it almost immediately because I knew how it was. He was like, I knew how it was going to be taken. And then he was like, and then I heard how many the police were like, we're getting so many phone calls about this video you posted. And then he said he knew, and then he said Jim Ross contacted him. And I think The Rock contacted him. And he was like, that, I was not intending to do that. And he was like, he knew, he said it kind of helped him realize that people do give a shit about him and people cared about him. And he was like, I wasn't trying to do that to get that sympathy or anything, but it was nice to know that, because he said that he had known, because, he's always been popular. Obviously Jeff is a certain level of popular, but Matt's always been popular in his own right. And he said, and then when things started getting hard, like he knew, because John asked him, he said, did you know that fans were starting to turn on you? And he said, yeah, I knew, I saw it. I saw the comments that were being made. And he was like, and it hurt. And he was like, but I understood it. But then he was like, so he was like, it was, nice to know that some fans didn't completely turn on him and they cared about him. And he was just like, so he does take full responsibility for everything that he did during that time. And even though, he said he's a person that has to make decisions for himself. So even though, he was put in a situation where he couldn't have surgery and couldn't have time off, and he is ultimately the one who decided to take the pills and keep taking. Oh, and what I completely forgot. So he did say, so he stopped taking the Vicodin and the Somas, and right after he left WWE, a friend at the time, he's like, we're no longer friends now, gave him some sort of synthetic something or other. And he's like, that was supposed to be better. And he said it was the worst thing he could have ever done. And it sent his path to addiction even further. He said if I had never taken that stuff, it would have never gotten to this point. And he's like, clearly we're not friends anymore. He was like, that was another dumb mistake that I made. And so I'm glad that he's taken accountability for everything that that he went through, and he's being open with his addiction. And so it was really cool to see. And I hope that people will I know I gave away a lot of the information there, but I still,
but hearing it from hearing it from his mouth is usually the best way to go on those
and
things.
you can see you can listen to the audio version, but he does have a video version on his YouTube channel as well. And so just kind of being able to see his face, and actually even John Alba's face, because John Alba's face when he was talking about how many pills he was taking a day was probably the same look I had on my face.
Probably.
Yeah. And then when he's talking about being arrested, John had this pretty much the same reaction I had listening to it. Nikki was in the room and she heard it and she was just like, oh my God. And so it was a lot. It was a heavy episode, but I think it's an important conversation, and we've talked about some heavy things on here before and how it is important, and people need to know that they're not alone. And the opioid crisis is so bad in this country that people need to be talking about it, because as we've talked about with, suicide and invisible illnesses and mental health issues and all that stuff, like the stigma is the biggest part of it. The stigma is what kills people. Yep. Because nobody's talking about it. And so I think it's important for people to talk about their addictions and how it started and then how they got through it. And, some people have relapses, and, we've seen that obviously with Jeff. He got clean for a really long time, and then he's had some very unfortunate things that he has done, even this year alone. And apparently, he's doing, from what Matt has said, he's doing well in rehab. I did see, he will be going to court, next week, I think. So we could be finding out hopefully the rehab has helped. I don't know what that means for him as a wrestler. It doesn't sound like he's coming back anytime soon. It doesn't sound like he needs to come back anytime soon. Mm-hmm. But Matt did give that little bit of an update. Seems like he is doing better in rehab. So that is definitely good news to hear. But yeah. So I just wanted to share that with you guys and make sure, I definitely recommend, taking, it's like an hour and a half show, but I definitely recommend checking it out. And then next week they're going to cover, I think it's been 3 decades of wrestling for him. So that's what next week's episode is going to be about. So I'm really looking forward to hearing that one for sure.
Awesome. And I mean, it's National Mental Health Month, or whatever, awareness month. And I think that it's important to, just like with Eddie and everybody else, is like addiction is mental health.
Yes.
It's not,
absolutely.
It's not you're not a bad person. You don't have a bad character.
Right.
You're not a junkie.
Yeah.
Addiction is mental illness, just the same as any other situation, whether it be anxiety and I think that people, it's not that you're a bad, there's not a blight in you. There is your brain needs to be tuned up so that it doesn't do that to you anymore.
Right. Exactly.
It's a hard struggle, but
it is absolutely.
But you can be handed tools that will help you to not.
Yeah, and that's what Matt, he was saying, that even with that rehab that ended up being not the place for him, he said he was like, I still got some tools. And then he was like, and then I got to the proper rehab facility that I needed to be in. And so he's like, and now I have these tools to deal with, when I get in these situations. And he was talking about how, with AEW, that's one of the good things about, they don't have such a strict schedule. And he's like, I can take time off if I need to, and if it gets to be too much. And because John asked,
no one there is going to send him for pills or deny him the time that he needs.
Right, exactly. Right. And then he made because John asked, like, do you think wrestling should have an off season? And he said it would be kind of interesting to have something like where this set of wrestlers are on TV for 6 weeks and then they get 6 weeks off, and the next set of wrestlers get 6 weeks off, and then they come back and the next set of wrestlers get 6 weeks off. And he was like, and then just kind of, so he's like, then he's like, you keep it fresh because you're seeing different wrestlers and different faces and different stories. And he was like, and then people are getting time off and they get to focus on other things. And
if only they would unionize.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. But yeah, so I guess that's probably a good place to stop it this week. We covered a variety of topics, and I know that one again was a little heavy, so appreciate you listening. If you couldn't listen, if it was triggering or anything like that, we completely understand. And we wish you, if you are struggling with any type of addiction, we hope that you are getting the help that you need. And if you're afraid to ask for help, don't be. We want you to be here, and we want you to get the help that you need and to be healthy. And so please get that help if you're not already.
That's the perfect way to end it, I think.
So.
All right. Well, you guys have a fantabulous week, and we will see you next week.
Yes, we will. Bye.